One question says, Dandavad everyone, why didn't Lord Chaitanya let Srila Raghunath Das Goswami join him? I don't know if that question is coming from a parallel universe or something, because my understanding is Raghunath Das Goswami did join Mahaprabhu, but there was a situation created, and which incidentally, I mean, I spent many years in India and I've seen this situation on a mundane level also happening, where people are very favorable to the mission, and they help and they give donations and they support programs. They invite the devotees to their house and everything. They're truly they take us to a certain level. They take being a Gaudiya Vaishnava, they take it seriously. But when it comes to the level of their son or daughter, and I'm talking about people in India, when it comes to the level of their son or daughter joining the mission as devotees, as practicing devotees, now that's an entirely different matter. They're not in favor of that usually. They want their son and daughter, you can say in one sense, they want them to have a happy, mundane life like them. And they want them to be under the guidelines and control of their parents and of society. They don't want them to become renegades in the sense of joining a temple and becoming full-time engaged in devotional service. That's more or less anathema to them. They don't want that at all. So it's described that, I just spoke about this because today in Chaitanya Charitamrita class, it finished about an hour earlier than this program here. He talked about Raghunath Das Goswami, how his parents, he's the son of Govardhan Majumdar, and his uncle is Hiranya Majumdar. And they're what could be translated into modern society as they're like billionaires. They're like prime movers of the society. And as being rich men, his father and his uncle, they financed all the devotees. They would finance the devotees. They financed Haridas Thakur. When he would come there, they would provide for him. They would have meetings in their houses. They would invite all the Vaishnavas. They were like patrons of all the Vaishnavas. They gave generously to them and always helped in all devotional matters. So therefore, Mahaprabhu told Raghunath, your father and your uncle, they're almost devotees. I think in the terms they would say Vaishnava Prai, or Vaishnava Bas, something like that. Those terms, Vaishnava Prai, they're almost like Vaishnavas. They act and seem like Vaishnavas, but they are not. As not being completely Vaishnavas, they were not in favor at all that Raghunath Das Goswami would go join Mahaprabhu. They were against that. And he tried to run away and join Mahaprabhu many times. So they had 11 guards watching over Raghunath Das Goswami. And they wouldn't let him escape. If he tried to go, they'd send people out after him and they'd bring him back. And he tried to escape on many levels. And Mahaprabhu's, when Raghunath Das Goswami came to him, Mahaprabhu told him, he said, your uncle and your father, they're almost devotees, but he said, but since they were friends with my grandfather, they were close with Nilambar Chakravarti, I will say one humorous comment about them, but I hope you don't mind. more or less Mahaprabhu was saying that. He said, this material world is, in Spanish, the word for the world is mundo. And the word for mundane is mundano. So this world, you can say, is basically mundane. And I don't think it's so much of a stretch to say the world in which we live is mundane. And the name mundo or world is appropriate. So Mahaprabhu said, and material mundane life, which everybody is living, is like a hole in which people are passing stool. That is the nature of this material world. It's like a hole in the ground which people are passing stool. I don't know if you've ever gone camping or this or that, where there are a number of people. Sometimes they do that. They have very rustic outdoor latrines built where people just pass stool into a hole in the ground. And he said, and in that, of course, in that hole full of stool and stool-like objects, your uncle and your father, they are like worms swimming in that stool. And he said, because instead of, they take the enjoyment of this mundane world to be their true happiness. So they're like worms swimming happily in the stool of material existence. I think that summarizes fairly accurately Mahaprabhu's vision of the whole affair, and also indicating to Raghunath Das Goswami what Mahaprabhu's conception is. And I was talking today, we have to deal with situations in the sense that, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. We have to deal with the priorities of people in terms of, many times even our own devotees, they equate Krishna consciousness with the religion that they're practicing. They're not religious. They're not following religion per se, but their practice of Krishna consciousness, because it's defined in their own terms of what they want. Like, if I put up a sign on the prasadam room door and I said, now hiring brahmacharis and brahmacharinis may submit for employment. People can submit resumes or just come in to be brahmacharis or brahmacharinis that live in the ashram, dedicate their whole life to Krishna consciousness, to the service of the devotees and the deities, and like this, and to Gurudev. How many applicants would I be flooded with applicants? No, people join under their own conception, and often their experience in Krishna consciousness becomes defined as to their own, you can say, their own parameters, what they're willing to do, what they want to do. And many people, for them, I would not say that there's anything wrong in the sense they're faithful devotees. They have faith in their heart. They have faith in Gurudev. It's like that. But as we ourselves know, it's the surrendering process, to surrender to the Lord, to engage in Sharanagati. It's not easy. It's not easy for anybody, regardless of what their ashram is. And not only that, it's, first of all, people do what they're able to do. And then then there's situations which are fraught with difficulties too. Somebody is involved in the temple, and then they have to deal with suddenly a radical bombardment of personalities aimed at them. People are giving them constructive advice. in a friendly mood, unless they don't take it readily, and then the friendly mood can change to an unfriendly mood. But it's okay if there's just a question of Gurudev instructing them. Maybe they can digest that, and maybe they can't digest that. But when it becomes 40 different Gurudevs instructing them, then it's a little difficult. And they're bombarded with their own ego and everybody else's ego. And actually, if somebody lives ideally in Krishna consciousness, like today it was in one commentary of Srila Prabhupada's, reading the 13th chapter of Adi Leela, just finished it, about Mahaprabhu's divine appearance. And there's a description of how people who are Brahminical by nature, they don't seek employment from somebody else. Seeking employment is more the occupation of a Shudra. But if somebody could say, well, how can I live in modern society without having a job, without having an income? And we would say, yes, that's true. You'll have to have some job and have to have some income. But if you were in a more Vedic structured society and you were living as a Brahmin, you wouldn't be seeking employment. But in the modern world, almost everybody has to be employed. Sometimes people are enterprising enough that or have enough background money or whatever that they can start their own business, but that's rare. Usually they will have to be employed by someone else. And that, Prabhupada comments, that's this occupation of a Shudra. Shudras are employed by other people. Brahmins aren't. But when I was born in Pennsylvania, I was very little, so I didn't notice. But Pennsylvania wasn't exactly a Brahminically structured society, nor is California, for that matter, nor London, nor Calcutta, nor anywhere. They're not Brahminically structured society. And everyone is thinking how they can live, and that means they have to have some income. And then in some cases, even their own ideals become compromised. And then their approach to Krishna consciousness is something that they deeply have faith in. I mean, many people have deep faith. It's deeply rooted in their heart, but they can't always translate their faith into action because they're not under the direct guidance of Gurudev. They don't have that ongoing relationship. But they're just trying to live in the modern society. And therefore, sometimes they may be very good practicing Vaishnavas, but in one sense, they are on the level of seeking employment from others, and their whole existence becomes, what can I say, compromised by that. What do you do if your boss, if your employer is a complete jerk or demons, like it said in that song, Sita Atapa Bata Varishna Edina Yamani Jagire Bifali Sevinu Kripana Durajana Chapala Sukalobai Lagire. Day and night, hot and cold, I'm working hard. And I'm being bossed around by a complete like mundane person. And why am I doing this? Chapala Sukha Lobai Lagire. So I can get a little mundane happiness, a little Chapala Sukha. I'm getting some happiness because they're paying me. But everyone's existence is compromised by that. So what can we say? Then if somebody lived ideally, if they're young, if they're not an old person, they'd live in the temple and they'd engage in devotional service. But society is not structured that way. And for a person to live in this modern world and engage, surrender themselves full-time, for instance, full-time. And this age is not even meant for that. But then they would have to engage themselves as a brahmachari or a full-time devotee in the temple. And that would mean basically they become a monk. You might say a monk. Is that right? Is that a good word? Can we say that? They're becoming a monk. But even in Mahaprabhu's time, we see that most of the people were not monks. They were successful practicing grihastas. They lived in the grihasta ashram, but they were full-time dedicated to Mahaprabhu and his mission. So they're all different levels of practicing life, which are possible. Unfortunately, Raghunath Das Goswami, he had to escape from his society. He had to escape from his father and his uncle. And that involved a great amount of determination on his part. And the blessings of Nityananda Prabhu, the blessings of Raghava Pandit, the blessings of Mahaprabhu, the blessings of the devotees. But he was able to succeed. But he had to make a tremendous effort to get out of his material entanglement, not because he wasn't completely dedicated. If nobody would have stopped him, he would have run away years before. But anyway, that was the situation in which he found himself. And finally, he escaped the material entanglement. But the question is, why didn't Lord Chaitanya let Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, why didn't he let Raghunath Goswami join him? But because Mahaprabhu was aware of what the situation was. And he knew in which way Raghunath Das could get free of that entanglement. And so Mahaprabhu did engage with Raghunath Das and did allow him to leave that entanglement. And it all happened, actually, you can say, by Mahaprabhu's divine mercy that Raghunath Das go get free. But, what happened, with the Arjuna is fighting and he's shooting arrows and Krishna is his charioteer. So why didn't Krishna just tell Arjuna, just lean back and go to sleep. I'll wake you when it's all over. Why didn't Krishna tell that to Arjuna? You can go to sleep in the back of the chariot and I'll wake you when it's all over. Did Krishna? I don't remember that. I don't believe that happened. Is anyone aware of that? Did that happen? I mean, it was extremely difficult for Arjuna. Imagine if you were fighting against your friends and family members and had to kill them. How easy to digest would that be for you? It's a tremendous, in modern times, somebody would say, it's a tremendous trauma for Arjuna. He needs many years of therapy after all that. That's what they would say. But Krishna didn't just do everything. Arjuna had to fight furiously. And that was Krishna's desire. So why didn't Lord Chaitanya let Srila Raghunath Das Goswami join him? As far as I can see, Mahaprabhu was ardently wanting Raghunath Das Goswami to join him, but Raghunath Das had to just go through some travails, some difficulties of the mundane society and the whole situation in which he lived. Ultimately, he was successful, and that was also by Mahaprabhu's mercy. But what does that person who's asking this question want? Do they want some supernatural intrusion into the affairs of of this world. You know, isn't it enough of a miracle that people are becoming devotees and engaging themselves? And I really don't, I can speak on one level. You know, there's one level in which we, as kind of fanatical, unrealistic sannyasis, can advise people. But that's not always applicable to this world. So we allow people to make some adjustments according to their own understanding and their own faith. And we're happy with that. And as it says in the Gita, Manushanam sahasreshu kaschid yadadi siddhaye yadatam api siddhanam kaschid mam viditatvata. Out of many thousands, one person may have some aspiration to be a devotee. And out of many people who try to be a devotee, maybe 1 in a million will be successful. I don't know, maybe more than 1 in a million. How many people are in this world? What is it? How many billions in this world? Huh?
Close to 8, Maharaj.
Huh?
Close to 8 billions.
8 billion.
8 billion?
Yes, we are very close to that, yes.
Okay, 8 billion. So let me see on my calculator here. 8 billion. That's 1,000. That's million. I'm going to use the American definition of billion, because the English definition is a little greater. That would be, I can't think any more. Oh, unfortunately, my calculator doesn't have enough zeros on it. Let's see. I mean, it doesn't allow for enough numbers, so I have to. How to.
What's that nice description where there's the ocean and there's a turtle and then there's a swimming ring or something, and if the turtle can get in the swimming ring, his head through that, that's the chance we have.
Yes. And even numerically, if we said if we said 1 out of 1,000, then we would have, we said 1 out of 1,000 can be, then we would have 8 million devotees. We don't have 8 million devotees. So I'll say, well, if we have out of 1 million, let's see. If I had 8 million, based on your number of 8 billion, okay, 1 out of 1 million, no. What is this? I'm screwing this up. Somehow or other, I'm no longer the mathematician that I was. Let me do this again.
It should be 8,000, Maharaj, for 1 million.
8,000. Okay. Well, we don't even have, I don't think we have, well, we may have 8,000 devotees, but even that's an optimistic number. That would be if 1 in a million people would become devotees. But anyway, there's no need to calculate so much, because Srila Guru Maharaj was always saying we're interested in quality, not quantity. But you can see this term, Manushanam Sahasreshu, out of so many thousands and thousands of people, 1 may aspire for devotional service. And 1 out of many thousands may be successful in becoming actually a surrendered soul. So my feeling is, looking at things from from a perspective which we're supposed to have, look at things. We're happy that the devotees are developing faith and they're engaging in a practicing life. And if they ask for advice, we'll give them advice and we'll try to help them. We'll always try to help the devotees. But I don't think, sometimes devotional service is compared to military service because conditions are dire when you're in a war and it depends on, your life may depend on making the right decisions and everything like that. So there is some urgency, and certainly there is some validity of that war description in the sense that by engaging in devotional service, it has been said, we're declaring a war with Maya, and don't think that Maya is not going to fight back. There are going to be casualties. There may be even fatalities. But we're happy with the level of the devotees engaging themselves sincerely according to their faith. And in that sense, the military comparison breaks down because we're not in a position where we're ordering people. You must do this and you must do that and you must do that. I remember Srila, he was driving a car, and Srila worked at the place where all the citations, all the tickets are processed. And his nature is a little strong, Srala's. So one policeman stopped him on the highway and said, you don't have your seatbelt put on. And he wrote him a ticket. And those tickets, I don't know, hundreds of dollars for a ticket for not wearing a seatbelt. And Srila kept on driving, and 5 miles down the road or something, the policeman there was waiting for him, and he saw that he didn't have his seatbelt placed, and he pulled him over and chastised him, and then wrote him another ticket because Srila talked back to the policeman. And then the policeman says, I order put on your seatbelt. And Srila said, you can't order me. We're not in the army. You're not my sergeant. I don't have to obey you. I don't have to follow you. And then the policeman thought about it. And he said, then I'm asking you, please put on your seatbelt. And again, Srila didn't comply. But one thing, Srila knew he could erase all the tickets once he got to work. But then when that policeman was very frustrated because he said, then I'm asking you, please put on your seatbelt. And then Srila said, you should get some counseling. They have counselors for you. You're in the police, they have counselors for you. You can get some counseling. You should get some counseling. Very audacious, Srila. But he wouldn't put on his seatbelt. And when the policeman said, I order you to put it on your seatbelt, he said, you can't order me. We're not in the army. You're not my sergeant. So the military comparison that you can order the troops do this and do that. Even if you're their guru, they don't have to. It's not like the military engagement. It's a matter of life and death. And sometimes these analogies, they break down. It's an accurate description in the sense we've declared war with Maya, and Maya is going to cause some casualties. But on the other hand, everything about Krishna consciousness, you can say in one sense, depends on the surrender of the devotee. If the devotee doesn't want to surrender, or he's gone as far as he can go, he may just say, yeah, and then not do anything. But you can't really force people, contrary to their nature, to do something which is foreign to them. And therefore, how many people are signing up to live in temples? But many devotees And sometimes devotees, they take Krishna consciousness as their religion. They'll come there for major festivals. But if there's a festival and at the same time somebody gives them a free ticket to a football game or a free ticket to a concert, they may go to the concert or the football game rather than the program at the temple. Is that true? Does anyone have any? I just could be talking through my, what do you call it? So talking through, what do people talk through? Their mouth, but I mean, talking through my hat or something. Is it true that sometimes devotees, they may go to sporting events or social events or even marriages or something rather than attend a temple function? Is that true? I've heard that can be true. Is that true?
I think it might be sometimes, yeah.
Oh, really? I am shocked. I am shocked. But going back to the question, why didn't Mahaprabhu allow him, Raghunath Das Goswami, to join him? I don't know by what parameters somebody, or in what way somebody's saying that Mahaprabhu didn't allow Raghunath Das Goswami to join him. Raghunath Das Goswami did join Mahaprabhu and he stayed with him, extremely fanatically engaged in Mahaprabhu's service for the rest of his life, to the point that Raghunath Das Goswami surrendered his tapasya, austerity, were like lines in a stone. How can you think Mahaprabhu didn't let him join him? Well, maybe, I don't know which version of the Chaitanya Charitamrita this was based on, what movie? Maybe a different version by Cecil D. I don't know if he's not making movies anymore. He's dead, I think. Cecil B. DeMille or something. Anyway, one more question. What are the functions of the... Okay. I have a question for Janardan Maharaj from Madhu Mangal Prabhu. In the stage of Anartha Nivriti, should we concentrate on being a better, kinder, more thoughtful person, or should we just concentrate on our service and the better person, Vaishnava, will come out automatically? I don't think it has to be an either or situation. In other words, I can just concentrate on my service and getting rid of my anarthas, but I don't have to worry about being a kinder person or a better person. Although, might that be considered something of an anartha, that I'm a real bastard? Might that not be something of an anartha? I don't know. Why can't we do both? Why can't we try and be good Vaishnavas and at the same time be kind to people? It seemed to me that Srila Govinda Maharaj, she was a very nice practicing Vaishnava all the time. He's our acharya, our inspiration, and at the same time very kind. So I don't think it has to be an either or situation. And you can't just get rid of anarthas by artificially. Like it is said, Guru Maharaj said this, Bhakti by force is no bhakti at all. So if you're going to try and artificially just be very rigid in your Krishna consciousness and in that way forcibly get rid of anarthas just by being a real nasty guy, I don't think that's going to work so well. Anyway, I'm missing some kind of subtlety in this question. Maybe I should read it again. In this stage of Anartha Nivriti, should we concentrate on being a better, kinder, more thoughtful person? Or should we just concentrate on our service and the better person, Vaishnava, will come out automatically? So, well, you will become a better person and kinder and everything, maybe as you understand more Mahaprabhu's mission. I'm not saying that Madhu Mangal doesn't understand that. I'm just speaking rhetorically for everyone, that yes, to be a kind Vaishnava, we've seen that our acharyas are kind Vaishnavas, but at the same time, what is that verse from Ishopanishad? Do you remember? Ishavashamidam. Do you remember that verse?
Matkid Ishavashamidam sarvam matkinchid.
Well, there was one where there's a little bit of a translation that was flexible, and it said that when she cultivated an understanding of Krishna consciousness and an understanding of nescience side by side. Do you remember?
Yeah, I think that was in Srila Prabhupada's purport to one of the verses, isn't it?
Yeah, so why would you say, why should I concentrate on understanding nescience? What's there about nescience that I want to understand? Because the world in which you're living is a world of nescience. So how to practice Krishna consciousness, how to be a surrendered devotee, and at the same time function within this world, maybe you could say it behooves you to know both your practice of Krishna consciousness and how to survive in this world. Could that be a possible explanation of why you should cultivate Krishna consciousness and an understanding of nescience, i.e., this world in which you're living? Maybe it's useful to know both, is it not? Could that be considered an explanation of that verse or Prabhupada's purport?
Yeah.
So you might say, it's good to do both. It's good to be a kind, thoughtful person. We don't necessarily want people saying, well, have you ever had any involvement with those people, those Krishna conscious people? Have you ever had any involvement with them? Yeah, they're the meanest people I've ever found. I don't think we want that kind of understanding of a devotee.
Maharaj, I think he might mean that he's feeling like he's not a very, very nice person, and he maybe can't deal with that now. But if he's saying through the service, will that naturally his nature or one's nature become
definitely the service, if he understands the service deeply, it will automatically change that. But he may also try to cultivate the other side, just as in terms of people's perception of what is devotional service and what is the nature of a devotee. But it is said, there is that verse, I don't know what the actual Bengali is, but it says a devotee is hard like a thunderbolt, but soft like a rose. So there's some things. And strangely enough, I would say, maybe people would argue otherwise, but I would say, if anything, sometimes I feel that I have to cultivate a little bit being hard like a thunderbolt, because, if you don't establish discipline, you cannot create or have a very Krishna conscious atmosphere if you don't have any discipline. Just like they say on a mundane level, if you have children, you have to educate them, and it's not just a question of let them eat chocolates all the time. You also have to discipline them to the extent that they're eating their unwholesome vegetables. They're not unwholesome, but they're wholesome, but to a child, they're not very wholesome sometimes.
You have a different position than us.
No, you have the same position in the sense that you're in a temple and you're dealing with devotees, and you have to give them nourishment, and you have to give them love and affection, but you also have to establish some discipline in the temple. It's not like people are allowed to go into their room and smoke ganja. You're not allowing that. So you do have some discipline, and you have to sometimes develop that discipline, is it not?
Sure, but maybe Madam Mongol doesn't want to take that responsibility for. Some don't want to take that responsibility, to discipline.
Yeah, well, I didn't apply it necessarily to him, but still,
Good.
but I'm applying it to myself, and maybe since you asked also, I'm applying it to you. But does Madhu Mangal, does he have a family?
Not wife and children. He has some family in Scotland, but long distance.
Okay.
Sisters, mother, father.
But he has friends, he has devotee associates.
Yeah, yes,
And
devotee family.
And because he's a practicing devotee and he's asking these questions, I'm also assuming that others ask him for guidance. So,
Sure, yeah.
yeah, that's natural. So he'll have to guide them out of affection. At the same time, he doesn't want to allow that affection for other people to dictate what his understanding of Krishna consciousness is. So there's some development required in that way. Come in. Oh, very nice.
You're in a Zoom meeting?
Yeah, but you
Is
can
this
say
in
hi.
London?
Hi. Yeah, but
Shaka, Didi.
be Shaka.
Dhanyavad.
Hello.
Nice day.
Radha Shankar.
Vanya Didi and
Hello.
Gaur Chandra, Krishna Mohini, and many other great Rasaraj Prabhu's there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm commenting on that, sometimes what could be a little bit of an abstruse comment by Srila Prabhupada in this purport of the Ishopanishad about cultivating Krishna consciousness and nescience side by side. And then some cultivation of nescience is necessary because you have to survive in this material world. So you have to deal with nescience also. So I think that we were talking about a question from Madhu Mangal Prabhu. He says, in this stage of Anartha Nivriti, should we concentrate on being a better, kinder, more thoughtful person, or should we just concentrate on our service and the better person, Vaishnava, will come out automatically? But I said, well, in the meantime, we don't want necessarily devotees to be perceived as bastards, like this person, he's a good devotee, but, at the same time, he's a very meanest person. You can't even talk to him. So, but, so it is said that a Vaishnava is hard like a thunderbolt and soft like a rose. So, in terms of one's own seriousness and endeavor to practice Krishna consciousness, one will show great determination. But also we can't apply, that norm so like mechanically or strictly or harshly to others. That's for ourselves. We can be, as I said, some hard like a thunderbolt. I could use a little bit of that for myself, but not necessarily for others. For myself, I want to stop making compromises. I want to be strict with myself. And what was a comment we heard of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur? When you wake up in the morning, how many times are you supposed to beat your mind with a shoe? And in the evening, there's some more flexibility. You beat your mind with a broomstick. But some mental, some mental flagellation, I guess you could say, is necessary. Something of strictness and controlling the mind. I mean, if I could sell my mind, I would take any kind of a bid, any bid. Anybody wants to offer the merest token price, yes, take it. Take this mind. There's been nothing but a source of annoyance and problems for me my whole life. So therefore, if you want to buy it, oh, you have a very good mind, I'd like it. Okay. You can, I'll sell it to you even on monthly payments. So that, anyway, that question we talked about. One more question. What are the functions of the Paramatma? Why is there no Paramatma in the spiritual world? Sometimes the Paramatma is described as a reflection of the sun in many thousands of different pots of water, right? So how can someone say there's no Paramatma in the spiritual world? And if the Paramatma is a reflection of the divine presence of the Lord, and the Lord is present in the spiritual world, then we would say the Paramatma is there for everybody. Paramatma is there. One's surrendered and one's in the spiritual world. I mean, why is somebody going to equate the spiritual world with some kind of mental trauma that we have of this material world? And by the way, it's not always the Paramatma that's advising us. We always understand there is the presence of Chaitya Guru, the Guru within. Because for one thing, even in this material world, how to perceive the Paramatma, although we can say the Paramatma is there and is giving guidance, and if we're not for the presence of the Paramatma, we might not have come in contact with Krishna consciousness. Some guidance is there, but we're getting guidance from Chaitya Guru, the presence of the spiritual master, that Guru within our faith, and the instructions and the guidance, and Chaitya Guru is giving us guidance. And why am I not calling that Chaitya Guru Paramatma? Because I'm in a stage of mundane existence. And just like, what would happen if you were in, and I'm just saying this on hearsay and also on practical experience, but what would happen if you were in China and you wanted to watch Facebook or YouTube or something like that? You couldn't receive them. Why? The airwaves are jammed. They have their own version there, so I'm not going to get into that. They have their own QQ and WeChat. So they have replacements for these things according to Chinese guidelines. They have to conform to that. But airwaves are jammed. So how much are you getting direct transmission and contact, and you're constantly in touch with Paramatma? I would say your ego is fairly successfully jamming the airwaves. So you're not getting that direct contact with Paramatma. But Paramatma is still there and it's still functional because, and what does the Ishopanishad say? It's like two birds in a tree. There's the Atma and the Paramatma, but the Paramatma is a little bit in a witnessing position, a passive position, while the Atma, while the person is jumping from branch to branch, tasting different fruits of that tree, some of which are very sweet and some of them are very bitter. And that's what we encounter in this world. But the Paramatma, the Paramatma bird is not directly involved in that tasting business. Rather, is waiting patiently for that other bird to finish with his tasting and then fly away together. But the Paramatma is there, almost you can say like a witness, like a divine witness. You know, Vidais Chasarva, what is it? Sarvasya chaham ridi sani vishnu mata smritir gyanam apavanam cha. No, everything's coming from presence of Paramatma, but at the same time, that Paramatma is a witness. It's not a direct, it's not, we always hear this. We have free will, and the Lord's not interfering within our free will. And I could say, maybe there's too much of a stretch, but I would say Paramatma is not imposing himself upon us. But Chaitya Guru, because we're very fortunate that we have contact with the Vaishnavas, we are getting internal instructions from within. And I believe that Srila Gurudev, he has always distinguished between Chaitya Guru and Paramatma. Isn't that true?
Yeah.
So what are the functions of the Paramatma, and why is there no Paramatma in the spiritual world? Well, if the Paramatma is described as, you can read about that in the Bhagavad Gita. There is a description of the Paramatma, and then almost ambiguously, although not ambiguous, but to my understanding, it says that, what is the verse about? There's a verse about Paramatma, and then the next verse that says, everywhere is his hands and legs, like that. So, idea I get is not one of direct imposition, but I would also say that obviously you've come in contact with Krishna consciousness, you've come in contact with the divine agent, with the divine guru, and you're getting guidance, and you're getting guidance from within. So it's not like Paramatma is disengaged, but we can say Paramatma's role in comparison to Chaitya Guru is, I would say, more passive. Is that fair? And in the spiritual world, why is not Paramatma there? Well, the Lord is there in the spiritual world, and everyone's looking to him at every second. So,
He's like the jail keeper. The liberated souls don't need Paramatma.
Yeah, I'm not going to, in the spiritual world, I'm not going to drive off a cliff. But in this mundane world, I'm perfectly capable of doing that. But so, well, we will consider, all these considerations are very important, because things are not just happening on a gross mechanical level. Everything is beginning with mind, intelligence, and false ego. Everything is coming rather, before I can engage in activity, there has to be some kind of development before that actual idea comes into the form of activity. There has to be some development on the subtle level. So everything is engaged on that level also. Now, maybe on that respect, I have an advantage of other people, because I often do many things without even thinking. So I don't have to get so constrained by, relative considerations. I just act impulsively. Sometimes that actually works, because it seems like something is happening on some level to give some guidance. But other persons are of a different nature. My nature is a little bit, like associated with fire. That's my nature. And other persons are very thoughtful and very consider things deeply. And that's very good. Takes both those. So sometimes, I'm around my friend Ashram Maharaj, and he thinks things through very carefully, and Guru Maharaj praised him for that. But sometimes my nature is, I'm thinking, why can't we reach a decision? Let's move, because I'm a little impulsive. And sometimes, sometimes that works if you're under an immediate danger. It works to react if you can react quickly. Sometimes quickness is required, but other times if you act too quick and it's not the right course of action, you can get yourself into a lot of difficulty. So anyway, I'm just saying like that. So everything starts on that level: mind, intelligence, false ego, then to develop and all that. That's why also I try not so much to go into stores or markets, because I'm become, what's the word? I've become stupefied, indecisive. I'm much better buying things online. Yeah, just push the button. It'll come in a day or two. I was one time in Mexico, and I was on the street, and there was some store, and I saw inside the store what looked like a fight was going on, and it was people fighting over some object that wasn't, they all wanted this object and they were fighting over it. And I thought, that's why I don't go into stores. They're dangerous. It's dangerous to go to a store. Yesterday I was going to San Jose. I don't know how these things work. I have an iPad, and I was going to San Jose, and on my phone it said something like, "You didn't take your iPad with you." And I was like, what is it to you? It's like, this is the ultimate of intrusion into my life. It's like somehow or other, I was guilty of endangering that iPad, like leaving him the iPad alone at home. It's like as if I should be prosecuted for leaving a dog locked in a hot car or a baby by himself. It's like, my God, what kind of a society am I living in? I was really like that. I couldn't believe the message. It was almost to the extent, why don't you have your iPad with you? Any other question? Now I've kind of answered. Do you want to comment about this? Any of these questions?
Well, I could just add to the Paramatma point.
Yeah. Here.
And because the Paramatma acts as a witness for the conditioned souls, and the Paramatma is dispensing, is like also involved with the dispensation of the results of karma. And so the liberated, Srila Swami Maharaj, Prabhupada, he gave one analogy in one of his purports about this, like if there's a fair and you have like the kind of like the, what was the word that you used? Like wardens who are like helping with the running of the fair. And then when the fair is over, they go. So it's like that. Paramatma is involved with the conditioned soul, right? And as a witness and maintenance. But once for the liberated soul is contacting a higher expression of the Lord, as Bhagavan. And so there's no need for Paramatma doesn't have any job to do there. What's that one?
Jurisdiction.
Right. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. And actually, there's one talk of Srila Sridhar Maharaj I came across where someone, because different sections of the Vedas and different followers of Vedic traditions, they celebrate Paramatma, right? Paramatma is like a very great and high thing, but there's one talk of Srila Sridhar Maharaj where someone's asking all these questions about Paramatma, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, actually, the Sadguru right? The pure guru, the Vaishnava guru is higher than Paramatma. No, the position of the pure Vaishnava is higher than Paramatma. We are interested in that.
And Chaitya Guru for that.
Yeah, and Chaitya Guru and Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, he kind of simplifies things, and you see he conflates the Paramatma and Chaitya Guru as one. But actually, we understand from the explanations of our gurus that they're distinct. And yes, Chaitya Guru is higher. So
Yeah, and there's a nice verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. What is that verse? Because we are not able to see, what is it? Because we're not able, basically, because we're not able to see the level of divinity, then for the pure vice, the Lord appears before us. Because we can't directly perceive the Lord. Therefore, the Lord appears before us.
The Mahant Guru without and the Chaitya
Guru within.
Two manifestations.
Yeah. And Srila Govinda Maharaj has said our line is based on Siksha. Now, I mean, we're given these questions, and I try to answer the questions according to my understanding and perception. But you can also, all of you can give some thought. These are very good questions. Give some thought to them. Give some thought to the importance in your own life of this practicing, and and maybe you'll recall also words of the scriptures, the words of Srila Govinda Maharaj or Guru Maharaj, that you'll feel is applicable to your own existence, because ultimately these questions, they have bearing on our own practicing life. We're all trying to endeavor to be good. I wouldn't just use the word practitioners, but practitioners in a sense, not like not just that practice makes perfect. And I've said this before, in the sense that if you go see a doctor for treatment, he will say that this is my practice. I'm a practicing physician. Doesn't mean he's just experimenting on you, but it means that he's practicing physician. That's his life. That's his practice. That's what he does. So all of you have your own practice, and your real practice is that you're dedicated devotees, so that you will have to see to your own practicing life, not as an idea of just your learning the ABCs. We assume that most of you will already, if not all, you have already finished with that level of just ABCs, although we still are giving some emphasis internally to our own grammar, which might be a little more refined than just ABCs, but grammar is based on understanding of words and letters and all those kind of things. Obviously, there's a difference between there, T-H-E-R-E, and there, the T-H-E-I-R. What's mine and what's there in the environment. But okay, so some understanding, but in terms of practicing life, I mean, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he would say, when people ask very basic questions, he said, didn't you already learn that from your guru? So we know that all of you have understood to some extent the basics from your relationship with your guru, and most are not new to the practice of Krishna consciousness. So there I'm using that word practice of Krishna consciousness, not because you have to go back to necessarily basics. In that essay of Guru Maharaj, where is it? In Sri Guru and His Grace, it's like you have to adjust yourself to where you are in your development. You don't go back to point zero and start again. But there may be some necessity in our practicing life of making some adjustment. I remember Guru Maharaj gave the example of one person. He said, well, maybe to jump over a ditch, one has to go back a little ways and in order to be able to have a running start so he can gain some speed and then be able to have enough momentum to jump over the ditch. Can't just stand still and jump over the ditch. So somebody may be looking and say, oh, he's going backwards. He's going backwards. And it may be, so sometimes we have to go a little backwards, maybe to make some readjustment in terms of where we are, but not necessarily starting from the point of zero. Maybe we have to go back a little bit to, at this point in time or this point in my life, I became lax in this element of my practicing life. And now I have to make some correction. And you don't have to wait till New Year's to pass a resolution. You can do it now. Okay, so we've answered the questions. Is Saraswati, are you there? Or we see the deity, but Saraswati was driving.
That's what Maharaj, here. I'm here.
Oh, you're there.
Yes.
So now you're in the West London temple?
No, I am in the flat, in my flat.
Okay. In your flat. Okay. And Lavanya Moyi, you're in the temple? Oh, she was in the temple.
She was looking after some guests that came, so she
Okay.
had to take care of them.
Okay. So anyway, we've answered these questions, and I think rather than prolong, luckily we're off daylight savings time. What a relief. What a relief. For me it is. I mean, you know, my person, I'm actually, I think the only one, but I'm a sun sign. So I prefer to live according to the movement of the sun rather than the movement of some clock hands. So this daylight savings time, I kind of like things that are adjusted according to the seasons, you know, winter and summer and spring and fall. I like seeing the changes of the seasons. I like seeing the changes of how in the winter it gets dark early and the weather changes, the leaves fall from the trees, and then in the summer the days get longer and everything like that. I'll need somebody establishing a clock with me so that instead of living where I am, I'm now living 500 miles to the east in another time zone. It's like, please, just let us live a normal existence. But anyway, I'm happy to be here. Happy to see all of you. You want to say anything to the devotees?
Oh, please give me your blessings.
Good, a good request that we get blessings from the devotees. And since it's now getting dark earlier in England, is that not true? It's getting dark earlier in England, right?
Yeah, it's dark from about 4 o'clock, 4:30.
My God. Well, it gets dark at 5 o'clock here. By 5:10, it's getting dark, really dark. So anyway, I'll let you, now that it's dark, you can all go to your evening meal. You know. And I still have a desire to go visit England. I mean, that's still on my agenda.
Aye.
Yeah, I have that desire. And I was, you know, before kind of getting out of, you know, post-pandemic neurosis. learning to not be afraid of other people's shadow crossing your path. Yeah. So,
Maharaj, we're waiting for some dates from you.
okay.
So
Yeah,
yes,
You'll
when
have to
is
keep on, you'll have to keep on waiting for a little while. But we're also talking, all of us, I mean, I don't know if it applies to all of you, but have a desire to visit, to go to India again.
Mm,
I mean, I was there in May, but my feeling, I don't know, this is very subjective, but my feeling when I'm in India, especially in Bengal, is what a wonderful place. What an incredibly beautiful, wonderful place. And Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he said that. He said of all the places Varsha is very special. And of all the places, Bengal is very special. And of all of Bengal, we can say Gaur Mandala Bhumi is very special. So when I'm happy, when I'm there in the land of Mahaprabhu, especially, and of course, Jagannath Puri, Vrindavan, all that's very, very beautiful, very wonderful. And we just finished, yesterday was Ras Purnima, just finished with Kartik month and Damodar month. It was really nice. Singing all these nice songs, right?
Yes.
Yeah, very pleasant. So now trying to have some sights on, as they would say, is what is the masthead that Srila Prabhupada put in Back to Godhead? Can someone say that? I know what it is, but I'm trying to think of the words.
Godhead is light. Where there is light, there cannot be, or Godhead is light, nescience is darkness. Where there is light, there cannot be darkness, or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, good masthead, right?
Yeah.
Nice. So that's what we want. Even though it's getting darker earlier, and even I guess on a metaphorical level, it is getting dark earlier because we're not going to live forever. So it is in that sense also getting dark earlier. But still, where the Godhead is light and essence is darkness, then we just have to, even though it gets dark earlier, I turn on the lights in my house. So then I have to be able to turn on the lights in my existence also, in terms of my engagement and in devotional service in Krishna consciousness. So anyway, happy seeing all of you. We'll see you next week. And I hope, in January, I will be traveling to Mexico because I have a ticket I can't throw away. And then I also will be going later. I hope to go to India. So maybe we'll pass through London on the way to India. I mean, London and India, they seem to go together a little bit because the Indians, you can say they had, the English, they had an indirect relationship in bringing Krishna consciousness to the West by their pursuit of they're actually trying to find a short route to engage themselves with India. What was it? The crown jewel of the British Empire, right?
Yeah, the jewel in the crown.
Yeah. And they used to say that the sun never sets on the British Empire. And now we sometimes wonder if the sun ever rises in the British Empire. But we're happy happy stopping and seeing the devotees in London. Hope to see all of you soon, and maybe send my best to persons who are not here today, like Karuna Sundari, and also Lakshmi Kanti, and from Norway.
She's there.
Oh, there she is. She's behind the plant. Tangarasa. Tangarasa, can you
Yeah,
show yourself?
yes, I'm here, Maharaj.
Oh,
I was with you very happy to listen to you and see the devotees. And I hope I can come to London when you are there.
yeah, I wish.
Hope to meet you in London.
Oh, yeah, I wish I could teletransport myself to Norway also.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
A
There's
bit
so
cold,
many.
a bit cold now. Right
There-
now it's a bit cold.
I lived in Denmark I lived in Copenhagen for, I don't know how many months, maybe a year almost, or I don't remember, but it was at least more than 6 months. So we didn't have any money for heat either. Didn't have any money to pay for a book, to heat the room. So just stayed wrapped up quite a lot and inside a sleeping bag. Yeah, it was cold, but it was nice things. I imagine it's like Norway that had a lot of like kefir. Kefir was very cheap. It was very nice. Do they have kefir in Norway?
I don't know what is this. Is it like wood? All wood?
No, it's like buttermilk, kind of buttermilk.
Oh yeah, kefir. Yeah, I understand.
Yogurt.
Yes, we have it. Yeah,
Drink.
kefir.
Many different flavors, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
and I
you're right.
remember when I was in Russia, they had what was that? Tarek, where's that devotee from Sochi? Is he still here? Oh no, there.
Oh, yeah.
I know Krishna Chaitanya will know. What is it? Twarak? What? No, that it was like, you remember, you heard of,
Tvorog.
yes, Twarak. Milk product, right?
Yeah.
Twarak. It's like, Twarak is like, what's that from, from Gujarat, they have that condensed yogurt, they call it what, Srikan,
Yeah, Srikant.
and Twarak is something like Srikan, right?
No, Maharaj. Tvorog is like almost like paneer, almost like cottage cheese.
It is much softer than paneer.
Yes, but anyway.
But it's sweet. But they make Twarak that is sweet, right?
Sometimes, yes, if they
Sweet,
like a preparation, like a preparation.
Blueberry and all this. I remember in Russia, I remember in Denmark, they had so many nice milk products. So many very nice milk products. Now it wouldn't make a vegan person very happy. But for a vegetarian, I mean, when you can't get all these vegetarian things, but there are a plenitude of milk products, then you would be happy. Anyway, I wouldn't mind being in Norway, even with a cold, if I had. You can just have enough clothes to be warm. The trouble is when you go to India, for instance, it is just blistering hot. And I said to the devotees in China, how hot does it get in Chongqing? And they said, you want to rip off your skin. That's how he described it. How hot. I mean, you can put on clothes when you're cold, but you can't take off clothes when you're hot. You can, people can people who can walk around naked, but they'd still be blistering hot. And so in some sense, that's more of an extreme than the cold. I mean, maybe, my descendancy is from Northern Europe. Maybe not Norway, but Russia, Romania, that kind of area. So I'm more used to dealing with cold. When it doesn't snow here, so you can almost have the reaction here of walking around and almost have a reaction of walking around in a t-shirt and thinking, that's all you got? That's all you got? That's as cold as it's going. That's all you got. And I had that mentality when I went to England a little bit, but when I got to England, I saw that I was not prepared for the elements there. It was a more severe form of cold than California. And that Tarun, what is his name? Tarun Krishna or Toshan Krishna?
Toshan Krishna, yeah.
Toshan Krishna, he gave me a jacket. And it was such a wonderful gift. All right, my dandavats to all of you. Vishaka sending her dandavats. Have a good meal. We'll see you next week. I hope to be able to travel to London soon.
Jai. Jai. Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Dandavat and affection to everybody.
Jai.
Dhanyavad.